The drama begins by introducing us to the female lead, young Joy, who is a newly graduated surgeon. She is under a lot of stress as she prepares to perform her first surgery. However, when she steps into the operating room, she performs better than expected. The scene then shifts to the male lead, Mr. Chang, a director of a major company. Chang is overseas attending an important meeting to secure a big project. However, during the meeting, he suddenly experiences a mysterious attack, feeling an intense burning sensation in his hand and recalling vague memories of a forest. The pain is excruciating, but no one can figure out what's wrong with him. The next day, at the hospital cafe, young Joy is about to grab her coffee when someone snatches it. That someone is none other than Chang, but his appearance is strange. He's wearing a patient gown with a dress coat, one foot in a slipper, and the other in an expensive shoe. When young Joy demands her coffee back, Chang refuses, acting as if the coffee was meant just for him. He enjoys it like a child basking in the sunlight until hospital staff arrive to take him back to the psychiatric department. It's then that young Joy learns Chang is a psychiatric patient. Chang undergoes several tests, but they all come back normal. The doctors believe his symptoms are psychological, possibly rooted in a traumatic childhood memory. Chang disagrees, insisting that the problem lies in his hand's nervous system, not his brain. However, he cannot recall any memories from before the age of 10. Everything he knows about his childhood comes from stories told by his grandmother. Meanwhile, Chang's company faces challenges in his absence, but Chang surprises everyone by returning and silencing dissenting shareholders with his sharp arguments and leadership skills. At the same time, we see a humorous scene where young Joy is arguing with another doctor in an elevator. They exchange heated words, only for us to learn that they're secretly dating and argue to hide their relationship from the office. Chang's overseas meeting was initially a success, but he later finds out his rival, Han, has taken the project. Furious, Chang confronts Han, warning him that starting this rivalry will have dire consequences. Determined, Chang vows to keep an eye on Han and snatch his next project before he gets it. Later, Chang meets with his psychiatrist, who tries to help him recover lost memories, particularly about the burning sensation in his hand. However, Chang remembers nothing of his childhood before the age of 10, despite his efforts. After his session, Chang is seen buying coffee, where young Joy spots him again at the hospital cafe. Young Joy tries to snatch Chang's coffee, saying this would settle the score for the day he took hers. But Chang responds sarcastically, claiming it's just an excuse to grab the attention of a handsome guy like him. Young tries to explain what he did that day, but Chang doesn't agree. As she tries to return the coffee, her finger dips into the hot coffee, causing her pain. Instead of showing concern, Chang gets angry that she has ruined his coffee. Annoyed, Young intentionally dips her finger back into the coffee, enjoying his irritation. Chang, now furious, throws the coffee away but says, "Why are you turning into a gutter rat for a mere cup of coffee?" At the hospital, Young encounters a critical case involving a father and son. Both are in critical condition, and while performing surgery, Young learns that the father had tried to kill his son. This revelation causes her hands to tremble, leading to a mistake during surgery. She is severely reprimanded by her senior doctor, who tells her to feel ashamed. However, Young is more upset because this incident reminds her of her traumatic childhood when her own parents tried to harm her. Feeling low, Young returns home to find her boyfriend waiting for her with a prepared meal. This thoughtful gesture helps improve her mood. Meanwhile, Chang decides to quit his psychiatrist sessions, feeling they are meaningless. However, as he reflects on the coffee incident, he realizes he might have taken Young's coffee. After confirming this with the hospital staff, he decides to apologize and brings her a new coffee. When he offers it, Young jokingly accuses him of trying to get her phone number, which she refuses to give. Chang retorts, "I'd never stoop so low to ask for your number." At the same time, Chang remembers vague fragments of his past involving coffee and a forest, where he felt childlike happiness. He learns that Han, his rival, is pursuing a forested land for a project. Determined to get revenge, Chang decides to acquire it first. During his visit to the forest, he meets a rescue worker, and they share a good first impression. Back at the hospital, Young visits the father who had tried to kill his son. Upon hearing that his son survived, the father attempts to harm him again, saying the boy doesn't deserve to live. Witnessing this triggers Young's childhood trauma, leading to a panic attack. She struggles to take her stress pills, but they fall from her hands. Time only wanted to save that child's life, so young Jai decided to do something that shocked the child's father, ensuring the child's life could be saved. For her, at that moment, nothing else mattered, and she truly managed to save the little boy's life. However, after doing this, a case was filed against her, and she had to explain everything in front of her hospital's team of doctors. Initially, everything seemed fine, as she was just trying to save the boy's life. But as soon as the team found her panic attack medications, the situation turned against her. Being a doctor, if she had panic attacks, how could she make the right decisions during surgery? Because of this, her job was now at risk, and she was transferred to another location. Meanwhile, Kang was being chased by some people in his car who eventually attacked him, trying to kill him. To save himself, he ran into the forest. On the other hand, young Jai, feeling sad and defeated, was packing up her things from the hospital and heading to deliver the bad news to her boyfriend. But instead, she received another shock. Her boyfriend was cheating on her. In just one day, 2 massive blows hit young Jai's life. She decided to go to her parents' home. Her father was shocked to see her after so many years. That day, she broke down, explaining how she was transferred from her job and how everything went wrong. Her father consoled her and gave her strength. She missed her mother dearly that day. The next day, she began her journey to the remote province where she had been transferred. Upon arrival, she discovered this wasn't just a temporary punishment. She had been permanently reassigned there. The clinic she was assigned to was located near the same forest. At the same time, Kang had arrived in the same forest for a land deal. This was the forest where young Jai's clinic was located. Enchanted by the forest's beauty, young Jai lost herself in its charm, while Kang was busy with land bidding. The two unexpectedly crossed paths again, as fate seemed determined to bring them together. Young Jai needed a ride out of the forest and had no choice but to ask Kang for a lift. Kang, driving rashly, made her nervous, but she praised his driving skills to avoid him refusing the ride. Sensing her flattery, Kang sarcastically asked, "Were you sent here because you messed up a surgery and killed someone?" Young Jai, smiling, replied, "How could a great doctor like me make a mistake? I came here purely to provide my holy services and welfare." Soon after, Kang's car got stuck. He asked young Jai to push the car, but instead of helping, she tried to make an excuse to leave. Somehow, Kang managed to get the car out himself. Watching this, young Jai quickly got back in the car and said, "I was just making sure my door was properly shut." As young Jai was getting off in front of her assigned clinic, she thought Kang might help her with her suitcase. Instead, she noticed him carefully moving his shirt sleeve away from her dusty suitcase. Seeing this, she wished never to meet him again. Upon entering the hospital, she realized the place lacked any proper facilities. The available doctor and nurse seemed completely uninterested in their duties, spending their days idly and just collecting their paychecks. Everyone advised her to do the same, but young Jai had always dreamed of being a real doctor. She knew that staying here wouldn't give her any meaningful experience, which left her feeling disheartened. Meanwhile, we see Chang, the rescue worker introduced earlier, receiving a call from an influential person in Seoul. He was instructed to pick up the new doctor, young Jai, in the evening, escort her home, and brief her about the area. Chang, being from the same organization, was assigned to assist her. On the other hand, young Jai was filled with dread. She joked to herself that zombies might appear from the hospital any moment to chase her. To make things worse, she received news that her previous hospital in Seoul had already hired someone else in her place. At the same time, Kang arrived in Seoul to confront an investor. He demanded to know why the investor was supporting Han so much when Kang had brought substantial profits to the company. The investor coldly advised Kang to rest, citing his recent incident of fainting in front of an important client. He suggested Kang get psychological treatment. Kang, however, refused to accept this, determined to defeat Han this time, as his skills always put him ahead of Han. Back in the province, young Jai stood outside her clinic at closing time when Chang arrived to pick her up. Chang was a funny and cheerful person, and as he drove, he began telling her about the area. He warned her that it was rare for patients to visit this hospital and that her hard-working nature might leave her disappointed because she wouldn't gain much real experience here. When young Jai finally reached her assigned residence, she was amazed at how beautiful the house was. But her joy was short-lived as she lamented not being able to work properly in such an ideal environment. She wished she had gotten a similar opportunity back in Seoul. Meanwhile, Kang was busy bribing or blackmailing Han's people to gain an edge in their competition. After securing several informants, Kang returned to the forest near Myeong the next day. While observing the area, he speculated that the Nang company wanted this land for a hotel or resort. However, as he wandered deeper into the restricted area, he was caught by a police officer named Pumi. She tried to issue him a fine, but just as she was doing so, Kang began having flashbacks from his childhood trauma. He screamed in pain, convinced his hand was on fire, as if someone were trying to sever it. At the hospital, young Jai had made up her mind to leave and return to Seoul, even if it meant getting fired. However, at the same moment, Kang arrived at the hospital as an emergency patient. She recalled hearing about his condition and administered the same injection used previously to stabilize him. As he started recovering, she sarcastically asked if he was emotionally triggered again. Young Jai was about to leave, but Kang couldn't help but think that someone should take care of him, so he decided to keep her there. As the side effects of the injection began to kick in again, every time young Jai came near him, Kang would pull her in and start reciting a poem. Whenever he took his medicine, he would appear like a sweet and cute child. Young Jai had worked the entire day, and after that, the other doctors and nurses left, saying that this patient needed her care, so she should handle the night shift as well. This irritated young Jai, and she thought to herself that she would have to stay with this grumpy person. The hospital was about to have no other staff on duty, but Young Jai stopped Kang from leaving, warning him that after taking the sedative, he would become overly sensitive, and he shouldn't drive. Kang sarcastically told her that he thought she was a terrible doctor and that she must have given him the wrong dosage and was now trying to cover up. He even started scaring her by telling ghost stories, asking her what she would do if a ghost appeared from the hospital washroom. These spooky stories made Young Jai nervous. Kang himself was scared as well, and both of them screamed and clung to each other. Later, while they were in the hospital together, Young Jai asked Kang about the poem he had been singing earlier. She asked if it was a rhyme about a jackrabbit, but Kang was surprised, as he never thought he would do something so childish. In reality, he had shared those ghost stories to keep her in the hospital, but he had ended up being more frightened than her. That night, Kang seemed really cute, holding onto the button of his shirt as he fell asleep in the hospital. Meanwhile, an unexpected guest, Dr. Young, accompanied him on his journey, asking for a lift out of courtesy. As they traveled together, they continued to talk. Young Jai had a scar on her body, which she never tried to hide. When Kang asked about it, she explained that her perspective on life was different from others. She said that if she hadn't given herself that scar, there would be no reason to be ashamed of it, and she was never embarrassed by it. She went on to give him a little speech, telling him that the pain in his hands or his psychological issues weren't something he caused, so he had no reason to be ashamed of them either. During this conversation, Kang realized that Young Jai knew everything about his past. She was aware of how he had taken a huge step to save a child, which led to his termination from the hospital. He was actually impressed by her courage, but as she continued her speech, Young Jai suddenly had a realization. She stopped midway and said that she needed to reassess her worth. Perhaps she had been on the wrong path. The place she had left needed her more. With these thoughts, she turned back. Meanwhile, Kang kept thinking about what Young Jai had said and considered seeking psychological treatment. He also remembered some things from his past. As he checked his camera, he found a cute photo of Young Jai lying in a hospital bed, which made him smile. Kang had now arrived in Seoul, where he met with Han and respectfully asked for the Mere Young project, but Han refused. It was then revealed that Kang had already acquired the documents for acquiring the Nang company to save his reputation. The investor is shown, and upon seeing it, they are greatly impressed by how Kang took this project from Han. He also gives Kang a piece of advice, saying that business is done with the brain, not with your feet. After this, Kang had made up his mind. After observing the area, he realized that the rescue team's helicopters, which are always flying around, would disturb the resort due to their noise. The special rescue team needed to be relocated elsewhere. He had already made preparations for this. He himself had joined the special rescue team and was going to join their air rescue unit. Upon hearing this, his secretary is astonished and asks, "Director, how will this look? You, a big businessman, hanging from a rope and coming down from a helicopter?" This was a challenge Kang had accepted after Han had pushed him to do so. Then, we see Young Jai, who was sitting by a lake when a rescue helicopter flies over, making a lot of noise. The helicopter lands, and a boy pushes her away from the water. It turns out to be Kang. She begins to wonder if she is dreaming. Kang, in his rescue uniform, is there, and she is surprised. Kang takes Young Jai aside, away from the water. She asks him, and it turns out that Kang had gone through all the training. He had even said during his interview that he had a passion for helping others, which is why he joined the rescue team. He explains that there is a helicopter training going on at the moment, and he is a trainee. He tells her that it's not allowed to be in this area when training is happening, which is why he moved her aside. Young Jai doesn't believe him. She feels that he is not the type of person who would join a rescue team to serve others. However, when Kang leaves, his team leader scolds him, saying that he is just a trainee and didn't need to go down to save the girl. "This isn't a movie scene," the leader says. The leader praises Chang, his favorite student, for being ahead of everyone, and Kang cannot tolerate it. He's used to being number one and cannot accept anyone surpassing him. Later, the team practices hanging from ropes. Kang has a hard time coming down, and Chang plays a prank on him by tying him up with a rope, leaving him hanging in the middle. Kang refuses to give up and keeps trying, wasting everyone's time. Meanwhile, Young Jai, who now works in the hospital, always tries to help the patients with all her heart. However, the problem is that the other two staff members, Dr. Park and the nurse, do not want new supplies or regular work to come in. They don't want to put in the effort. Kang finally manages to get down and complains to his team leader, saying that what Chang did was harassment, and the team leader should take action. "How can there be fairness in serving people if this is happening here?" he asks. But of course, the team leader doesn't listen and tells Kang to leave. Later, in the dressing room, Kang has a brief argument with Chang. Kang's problem is his inflated ego, and he can't tolerate anyone surpassing him. However, Chang has the superiority of being senior and having undergone more training. Kang calms himself down, reminding himself to focus on his mission, the real mission. After work, Chang goes to Young Jai and takes her out to eat. They talk for a long time, and it is here that we learn more about their backstory. The hospital director is a friend of Chang's father, and Chang's father is a wealthy man. Despite his wealth, Chang seems to be working with the rescue team as if it's his dream. After having dinner, Chang drops young Jai home. She tells him that next time, she won't let him pay the bill. They will split it, as she doesn't like free treats. Meanwhile, Kang, exhausted, returns to his room. As soon as he closes his eyes, young Jai's face appears in his mind, reminding him that a person should feel their own worth. She had returned to the hospital, and at that moment, Kang receives an emergency call. He rushes to his training center, but by the time he arrives, the rescue team has already completed the mission. Seeing that he is late, his team leader scolds him, calling him a spoiled rich kid. He tells Kang that if he wants to stay at home, he won't be able to participate in rescues. The team leader also tells Kang to find a place nearby to live so he can make it to rescues on time. Kang is now searching for a suitable place to live in the same area as the rescue office. Meanwhile, young Jai is working at the hospital. She constantly faces issues with Dr. Park, a lazy man who doesn't want the hospital to improve because it would mean more work for him. Young Jai, however, is determined to develop the hospital. While Kang is undergoing training, they are briefed about a forest fire, and Kang looks at his hand, which often gives him the feeling of fire. There is a forest area that no one is allowed to enter, but as a member of the rescue team, Kang wants to go there, claiming that photography is his hobby. However, he isn't allowed entry. Eventually, Kang finds a place to live, and it turns out to be the same house where young Jai lives. The house is divided into two sections, one where young Jai lives, and the other is rented out, which neither of them knows. They both assume they are the only ones living there. Young Jai, wearing small clothes, enjoys her time, while Kang, after bathing, walks around in a towel, thinking he's alone in the house. After their bath, both of them relax in the garden, playing music. They can't hear each other's music due to the sound of their own music. Young Jai starts dancing in the garden, doing the kind of dance one does when alone. Kang sees her dancing in her small clothes, and both of them get embarrassed, shouting and running inside to cover themselves. They argue, but since both have rented the place, they agree to stay there. They make some rules, not to enter each other's areas and not to wear small clothes in the house. After this, Kang deliberately annoys young Jai, making sarcastic remarks about her. He enjoys provoking her while acting in a rude yet elegant manner outside the house. However, with young Jai, he becomes like a child, teasing her in a funny way. Then we see Chang, who visits his father, and it becomes clear that Chang's father is more of a friend than a strict father. One evening, young Jai is sitting at home when she receives a call from her old hospital, inviting her to an event. Upon hearing this, she becomes sad because she never wanted to leave that hospital, and the punishment she received for what happened to her there was unfair. All her wounds reopen as old memories resurface. Meanwhile, Kang is shown recognizing all the sounds of nature from the forest, sounds he had never been close to before. He doesn't understand how he's able to recognize them. The next day, on the day of the party, young Jai attends but is ignored by everyone because she comes from a small, old hospital, while the people at the party are from prestigious or modern hospitals. At the party, young Jai meets her ex-boyfriend, and through him, she learns that he is about to marry the chairman's daughter. He had betrayed her for money. He pulls her aside and tells her that he misses her, even trying to hold her hand. However, young Jai tells him that he's marrying someone else and then sneaks off to meet her in private. She won't be his mistress. These words deeply hurt young Jai, and tears well up in her eyes. When she returns to the party, she feels like an outsider based on how people are behaving. However, Kang, who is very famous at the party because he is a successful businessman, arrives and stands next to young Jai. People begin to engage with young Jai and give her attention because they think she might be Kang's girlfriend. Kang even tells everyone that they live in the same house. This causes young Jai to feel conflicted. While part of her dislikes the attention, she also enjoys the respect and protocol that comes with being associated with Kang. When people start asking Kang about marriage, he responds with meaningful answers. Seeing this, young Jai's ex-boyfriend gets jealous. Outside, young Jai angrily confronts Kang because some people believe that if they are living together, they will get married soon. Kang doesn't deny these rumors. However, Kang had already understood her sadness when he overheard her talking to her ex-boyfriend. He realized she was upset and decided to help her no matter what. Later that evening, Kang returns home but can't sleep because he is worried about young Jai, who hasn't come back yet. He gets anxious, wondering where she might be. Eventually, young Jai returns home but is very upset. She immediately starts scolding Kang, saying that what he did, although it gave her some protocol, wasn't something she wanted. She doesn't want fame or success based on someone else's help. Kang, on the other hand, jokes that since such a handsome guy like him is around, she can use him to make others jealous. Young Jai responds by saying that her ex-boyfriend took her away just because she was the daughter of a wealthy man. Kang reassures her, telling her that her ex didn't steal her boyfriend but took away trash from her life. It was a good thing. The next morning, Young Jai goes into the forest to calm herself down. Kang follows her, concerned about her state. She tells him that she can't go back to Seoul because her ex-girlfriend is there, and she now understands that the harsh punishment she received was because she was dating someone her ex liked. Kang tells her that there's nothing much to do here anyway. Kang tries to explain to Young Jai, telling her that she shouldn't think of things the way others do. Instead, she should focus on preparing to return and take revenge on those who wronged her. He reminds her of her own words, "Find your value," and tells her to recognize her own worth and not allow anyone to crush her spirit. He urges her not to let anyone have the power to break her and adds, "Get ready to date." After this conversation, Young Jai speaks with a colleague in the cell. He mentions that ever since Kang was seen with her, people at the hospital have been talking about her. Some even suggested that she should be called back to the cell. While Young Jai is pleased to hear this, she clarifies that it isn't as people think. Yes, they live in the same house, but they have separate portions. Her friend doesn't seem to understand and advises her to perform well at the hospital, believing the administration will call her back. Meanwhile, Kang, who is the most junior, helps all his colleagues and even arranges tea and coffee for them. His true intention, however, is to win their trust and gain access to the area where the rescue mission teams operate. After much planning, he suggests they go to that zone for training, and he eventually succeeds, even receiving a card granting him entry to that area. He is thrilled by this success, but Chang is keeping an eye on him. On the other hand, Young Jai has a disagreement with Dr. Park over the lack of local patients at their hospital. Park tells her to stop wasting time on unnecessary tasks, but Young Jai refuses to sit idle. She believes that if the local people don't come to her for treatment, she will go out and find patients herself. She tries to persuade elderly people she encounters, but they refuse, preferring to take self-medication rather than seek treatment from her hospital. Feeling frustrated, she continues to visit different places, trying to convince people to accept treatment, but she is turned away everywhere. She starts to feel like a beggar instead of a doctor. Eventually, she spots an elderly man sitting by a window who looks quite ill. He tells her that while he is sick, he won't take treatment from her hospital. He, along with others, prefers to go to a different hospital. When Young Jai returns, Dr. Park laughs at her state, but just then, Kang arrives with a huge teddy bear to cheer her up. He starts showing her affection in a very cheesy way, making Young Jai feel embarrassed. The nurses and doctors at the hospital are stunned by their interaction. Kang even orders a large amount of food from a special chef for her and, before leaving, playfully messes up her hair. He also threatens Dr. Park, warning him not to bully Young Jai, or he will make him pay. Young Jai doesn't like acting at all, but she feels very happy after seeing the food Kang brought because it was very tasty. After such a tough day, she enjoys the food immensely. Meanwhile, we see in the gym that Chai and Kanki are always competing with each other, constantly in rivalry. However, their team leader notices this and calls in the biggest trainer and bodybuilder, telling them to show their courage by competing with him. Upon seeing him, both of them back off. Later, we see that Chang's father receives a notice stating that he has occupied a piece of land on which he is doing business. He has been receiving repeated notices from an officer to vacate the land. The officer tells Chang that he knows him and suggests that he try to resolve this issue. It is revealed that the officer sending the notices is none other than Officer Pumi, who never pardons anyone who goes against her rules and regulations. Chang goes to meet Officer Pumi, wanting to discuss his father's land, but he realizes she is too strict, and he can't bring himself to talk about the issue. Meanwhile, Kang, accompanied by some fellows, reaches the restricted area he obtained through the rescue team's card. They are observing the area when they realize someone is watching them, reporting their every move. When their cars leave the restricted area, Officer Pumi sees them and recognizes a label on their car, but at that moment, she doesn't issue any penalties. Later, Young Jai is thinking about Kang's antics at her office and wonders whether he will act the same way at home now that they are dating. However, nothing of that sort happens at home. Due to the installation of too many appliances, a short circuit occurs and the electricity goes out. They both go outside, where they find two bicycles. As they ride them, the generator turns on. While riding, they talk, and Young Jai asks him if he will behave like the tiny little one at home as well. Kang jokingly says that he thinks she's beginning to like his cheesy, lovey-dovey antics. Kang then invites her to his place for a meal. Upon seeing her hungry, he feels sorry for her and offers to share his portion with her. As they eat together, Young Jai tells Kang why she doesn't cook at home, because she never has the time. Kang reassures her that she is an amazing and talented doctor and doesn't need to feel inferior to others. He trusts that she will shine one day. Encouraged by his supportive words, Young Jai becomes happy and starts giving him tips about rescue rope tying. She explains that she knows this because her father was a mountain rescuer. The next day at work, Young Jai starts suspecting that Dr. Park is collaborating with another hospital and deliberately preventing patients from coming to her hospital. She notices a shuttle bus service taking people to another hospital. This leads to a big argument between her and Dr. Park, where they insult each other using medical terms. However, Young Jai doesn't give up. She prepares a list of offices where people can seek treatment and includes the rescue office on the list. She directly approaches the rescue office and asks them to cooperate with her hospital. If any member gets injured, or if you need to rescue someone, bring them to our hospital for treatment. Along with that, she had also prepared a proposal for cooperation with them, as she was working really hard. As she was leaving, Chang and Kang, who were returning from their training, noticed her. Chang knew young Jai. Upon seeing this, Kang became jealous because, of course, he didn't get along with Chang. He started treating her like his girlfriend in front of Chang and began his usual drama, calling her Tiny One and Cutie Pie, just like he used to. Young Jai, due to his overacting, felt that she might be swayed. After Kang left, he tried to make Chang jealous, but later, young Jai explained to him that they were just friends, and he tended to say too much. Next, we see Pumi, who visited Chang's father and told him to either move his business out of the area or pay fines, as there was no other way out. He understood this, but when Pumi was leaving, she saw the old uncle unconscious. Young Jai saw him too, and it was revealed that he was actually Pumi's teacher. Young Jai saw his face and recognized that he and Pumi were school rivals, and their enmity had been ongoing since school days. She gave him medicine, and after that, Pumi was going to drop young Jai off. They were fighting during the whole journey, not expecting to meet each other again in life. Meanwhile, Pumi saw a car passing by and recognized it as the same one she had seen last time when it entered their area. She tried to stop the car, but the man inside ran away, not wanting to be seen, as he worked for Kang and was on a secret mission. While fleeing, the man fell down the hill, and they called 119 for help. The air rescue team arrived to save him. During the rescue, Kang also recognized the man as his own, but they managed to lift him into the helicopter. Later, another accident occurred where Kang and one of his friends got stuck and were in danger. After a lot of effort, the other rescue team members managed to get them up to safety. Young Jai, being a doctor, was searching for patients when she found 3 or 4 who were injured. While performing surgery on them in an emergency, blood splattered on her face, and her condition started to worsen. She felt as though her breath was failing, and her childhood trauma resurfaced. Meanwhile, people around her were recording videos instead of helping. Kang arrived like a hero, snatched their phones, and threw them into the water, scolding them for making fun of someone who was trying to save lives. He reassured young Jai, telling her that the patient's death wasn't her fault, as she had tried to save him. Then, Kang carried her and reassured her that she was a savior. The story then delves into young Jai's past, revealing that her father was not her real father. He had adopted her. Her real parents had tried to kill her, and in that suicide attempt, her parents died, but she survived. To recover the debt her parents had, people were after her. The rescuers, who had saved her life, also adopted her as their daughter. The next morning, young Jai thanks Kang for helping her the previous day, and to show her appreciation, she decides to visit his office. Kang notices her intentions and teasingly says that she seems to be thinking too much about him. Upon hearing this, young Jai remembers the old Kang and says that she was wrong to think he had become so caring, implying that he's still the same as before. To tease him, she adds that he's not strong at all, and when he carried her yesterday, his hands were shaking. She sarcastically asks if he lacks the power to lift a delicate girl like her. Kang feels insulted, as being called weak is a taboo for a man. However, young Jai is just teasing him, knowing well that since he joined the rescue team, he has been over-exercising, which caused his hands to become injured. Before leaving, she sarcastically calls him Mr. Weak. Young Jai enjoys the opportunity to tease Kang, while Kang's friend, who fell off a mountain the previous day, doesn't visit him. Instead, Kang sends a message through a colleague instructing him not to mention Kang's name. Meanwhile, Bumi arrives at the investigation site. When Kang goes back to his office, he imagines how everyone will respect him for his actions during the mission, especially for saving a colleague's life. However, no one acknowledges his efforts, and even his team leader scolds him for cutting the rope to save his coworker, saying it was against the rules. Kang defends himself, stating that his duty was to save lives, even if it meant putting himself in danger. The team leader secretly respects Kang's actions, but rules are rules, and Kang still faces punishment, including carrying buckets of water and completing a mountain hike as part of his punishment. Exhausted, Kang recalls his promise to his investors to leave the forest in 3 months, so he continues his work. Meanwhile, at the hospital, young Jai is scolded by Dr. Park for her behavior the day before, as her actions caused patients to avoid the hospital. However, a supervisor notices the positive changes brought by young Jai and acknowledges that these improvements occurred after her arrival. After completing his training and punishment, Kang is physically drained and barely able to stand. When he returns home, he feels like his body is falling apart. Young Jai arrives with pain patches, offering to help him. Kang, trying to maintain his pride, refuses and claims that he's strong, not weak. But once she leaves, Kang secretly applies the patches to his body, as they are the only relief he can find. Later, a lizard enters Young Jai's room, and she screams in fear. Kang, in his exhausted state, rushes to her aid, showing his protective side. Young Jai is so terrified that she immediately seeks his help. Young Jai clings to his back, pulling his hair and telling him to get rid of the lizard. After the lizard hides, Young Jai notices the patches on Kang's body and asks him if he was really in pain. She calls him Mr. Weak again, but Kang responds that he is strong. Young Jai, who is a doctor, offers to help him apply the patches properly. Afterward, she shares her past with Kang, explaining that she had wanted to become a psychiatrist, but the pain of the patients made her feel sick, so she chose another path. She admits that people call her weak, but Kang supports her, telling her that it was a good decision. He says, "You made the right choice, and now you're happy in the field you chose." Meanwhile, Kang, who used to act tough, secretly cares for Young Jai. The previous night, he had carried her from the hospital, and she had held his hand tightly because she was so scared. He stayed by her side all night to care for her. In the rescue office, the team leader is worried about Kang's status, as the man whose life Kang saved will take 6 months to recover. He wonders if they should make Kang a permanent member of the team. Kang, who has always wanted this, is pleased with the idea. The next day, Young Jai's proposal is approved, and she is made the rescue team's doctor, working in collaboration with the hospital. During a first aid training session, some of the boys flirt with her, but Kang feels jealous and protective. He teases Chang, telling him how scared Young Jai was of the lizard and how she clung to his back. This makes Young Jai run away, not wanting Chang to know too much. After Young Jai leaves, Kang tells Chang that she is very interested in him and warns him not to try to be a third wheel. Chang, however, responds that he will take care of Young Jai's safety and protect her from danger. Kang, however, responds by saying that if we're talking about danger, no one is more dangerous than him. Meanwhile, Boomy arrives at the rescue office, suspecting that the leak in the area may have come from there. When she sees Kang, she is surprised, as he was once in that restricted area. She starts to suspect him, but she has no evidence. Kang later sneaks into a document section, which hints that he may have a hidden agenda. Chang notices her and says, "I will always keep an eye on you." After seeing this, Kang has to leave the place. On the other hand, we see that one day, Boomy went for hiking in the mountains, and there she met Chang. They both enjoyed their time together, trekking in the forest, and had a lot of fun. Boomy was so brave that she wasn't afraid of snakes. She would pick up non-poisonous snakes and take photos with them. When Chang returns, his father gets very angry with him and says, "What good are you? You're a useless person, just hiking all the time. I've had to pay so much, and you couldn't even explain anything to that inspector." Additionally, he scolds his son, saying, "Leave the rescue office and join me in managing the business, or I'll take your car." But Chang has made duplicate keys, so the father can't take the car. Now, Kang goes to meet a professor on his day off who has done extensive research on the Miar Young forest. When he arrives at the meeting place, someone is secretly keeping an eye on him, taking his photos and sending them to their boss. As soon as the boss learns of this, the professor receives a call and excuses himself, disappearing right after. Kang thought the professor would return after the call, but he doesn't. When Kang steps outside, someone tries to attack him again by hitting him with a car, but he narrowly escapes. After this stressful incident, when Kang returns, he starts teasing Young Jai again, saying, "You depend on me so much. What will you do if I'm not around?" Young Jai replies, "I don't care about you, not even about my shoes." The next day, when they both go to work, it's revealed that Kang participated in a competition. They will be dropped off in the forest, and whoever reaches the finishing point first will win. Kang wants his rescue team to win so they can earn more points and impress his team leader to gain his trust. Young Jai is also there, ready to handle any emergency situation, as this is a dangerous mission. While everyone is observing the mission, it's revealed that Kang takes a dangerous shortcut through the middle of the forest. He crosses a river and reaches a point in the forest that seems strangely familiar, as if he has been here before. His team believes he is in danger and sends the doctor and other members to rescue him. Young Jai waits for Kang at the finish line, worried that he might have been injured. She calls out to him, but when Kang arrives, he is perfectly fine. He teasingly says, "I don't care about your face, I am just fine." Finally, Kang wins the badge, but his team leader gets angry and says, "This is invalid because you used a shortcut." Kang replies, "Winning is winning, and I didn't break any rules. I'm the kind of person who has never seen defeat. For me, there is only victory. If you don't want to treat this badge as a victory badge, then consider it just a present," and walks away. At home, after eating noodles, Young Jai thinks about why she was so anxious and upset for Kang, even though she had said that she didn't care about him. Just then, Kang arrives, and she starts explaining herself to him. She says that if anyone else had been a member of the rescue team, she would have been just as upset. But Kang calms her down and shows her that she broke the rules. He explains that hanging clothes here is not allowed because it would ruin his mood every time he comes home to see the mess. After saying this, he walks away. However, He's left wondering how he knows those secret and shortcut paths in the forest. Why does his subconscious signal to him that he knows this area so well? The next day, it was the weekend, and young Jai was thinking about what she should do today. She also starts wondering where Chang disappears every weekend. Meanwhile, Chang is already in the forest, trying to find the answer to why he feels nostalgic when he visits this place. He even calls an aunt who lives overseas, but doesn't get any answers. His mind leads him to a spot, and when he looks at a tree, he finds things that children have used to play with. He starts wondering what is drawing him to this place. At that moment, young Jai also arrives in the forest in search of him. Here, Chang starts giving her a lot of information about the forest. He knows the names of all the trees and recognizes the bird calls. Young Jai is impressed by how knowledgeable he is, but soon she finds out that he knew all of this through an app. After a while, young Jai spots a flower she really likes and learns that the soup made from this flower can be consumed. She wishes she could drink that soup too. Now, Chang is taking pictures of the forest, and young Jai, enjoying the beauty of nature, appears quite lovely. He secretly takes some pictures of her, but doesn't let her know. Then, young Jai tells him, "I understand now. You joined the rescue team only for peace of mind. Otherwise, why would someone as rich as you be here? Since you came here, you haven't even felt the fire pen in your hand, which means you enjoy this work, and your psychological issues are disappearing." Chang stays silent, and young Jai has no idea that there is a secret mission behind all of this. Meanwhile, we see Boomy, who has gathered all the timber business owners and tells them that she wants the full report on every tree they cut from the forest. Everyone knows how strict she is in her work, and seeing her intensity, they are all startled. The largest business leader there is Mr. Choi, who happens to be Chang's father. Meanwhile, Chang meets with his assistant, who briefs him on the major powers in the forest. He learns that all the big players in the timber business need to be removed because a resort cannot be established while this business is going on. The easiest way to achieve this is to convince Mr. Choi to move his business, as he is the leader, and everyone else will follow him. Here, Chang also discovers that Mr. Choi is actually Chang's father. The scene shifts to the hospital, where Dr. Park is astonished, and young Jai is also amazed because the hospital is filled with patients that day. She is thrilled because this is her dream coming true. Young Jai wonders if the boss of the hospital, who visited the day before, might have contributed to the efforts. After a long, productive day, young Jai returns home feeling fresh and happy. Kong is also there, and when he sees her, she tells him about how many patients had come to her office today and how happy she was to check them all. She becomes so happy that she takes him out for a treat and also buys dinner for him. Kang is simply happy seeing her happy. On their way back, young Jai says to Kang that she's the kind of person who feels happy helping others, and that Kang left his job because he wanted peace of mind. That's why he joined the rescue team. She mentions how both of them are doing work that serves others, and they are very similar in that sense. Afterward, on their return, they play several games, and young Jai is so happy that Kang becomes even happier watching her. Later, Kang heads for another meeting on his mission, this time with a politician. They discuss how Kang is trying to build a resort in the young forest, and how the politician can help avoid obstacles in this plan. The politician says that if Kang can control the reporters and ensure the public doesn't raise a fuss, he won't be an obstacle. Kang then briefs many reporters, showing them how building the resort could bring positive changes to the local economy. He encourages them to present this positive side to the world through their writing. The next morning, young Jai arrives at the hospital excited, waiting for patients to arrive. However, Dr. Park tells her that the patients were paid to come there, and he hints that young Jai was involved in arranging this. This news deeply saddens her. Dr. Park leaves after this revelation. Meanwhile, Boomy conducts some research and discovers that the timber business in the young forest is being bid for at very low prices. She wonders how these businesses can be profitable if they are earning so little. She questions Chang about this, and he explains that the timber businesses are making a profit by employing workers with very low wages, many of whom are older. Boomy isn't satisfied with this explanation. Later, Boomy and Chang go fishing, and Chang catches a fish, but decides to release it back into the water. He explains that releasing the fish after catching it brings him great joy. There's also a romantic moment when Boomy almost falls, and Chang catches her. Back at the hospital, since there's no work, young Jai goes to sit by the river. Her shoe falls into the water, and Chang helps her retrieve it. He also brings a gift for her in an envelope, but the envelope quickly falls into the water. Young Jai becomes very angry and directs all her frustration at Chang, accusing him of wasting money for no reason. She tells him she is not the type of person who would be happy with such gestures, and that she thinks he's a bad person. She also says she doesn't want to date him because he's not her type. This rejection infuriates Chang, and for the first time in his life, he feels rejected. We also learn that the envelope contained flowers that Chang had searched for with difficulty, flowers that young Jai had wanted to drink as a soup. The next day, Chang meets Mr. Choi in the forest. Mr. Choi doesn't recognize him, but knows Chang is Chang's father. Mr. Choi also realizes that in order to remove the timber business, Kang needs his support. Kang begins discussing his plan with Mr. Choi, hoping to get his cooperation to move the timber business out of the forest. Kang goes to Mr. Choi's house, claiming that he is a friend of his daughter Chang and has come to meet her. However, Mr. Choi mentions that he never stays at home on holidays, and this was the opportunity Kang was looking for to convince him. He tries to explain how dangerous their rescue work is, and how both he and Chang had almost lost their lives a few times. Kang's goal is to get Mr. Choi to move his business from here to Seoul and take his son with him. The next day, after the holiday, when Chang returns, he confronts Kang, asking why he went to his father's house and what all he said. Kang, putting on an innocent face, responds that he missed his dear friend and colleague on the holiday, so he went to his house to visit. Their argument continues, but just then, an emergency alarm goes off, and they head off for a mission. They reach a wooden house that is about to collapse, and they have to rescue some people inside. They manage to move one person out, but just as the roof is about to fall on Chang, Kang saves him. Both Chang and Kang are injured in the process. They both arrive at Young-jae's hospital, where she treats them. They have some stitches and minor injuries, but they need rest. The two fall asleep quietly when a fat nurse approaches them. That night, Chang asks Kang why he saved him if he hated him so much. Chang is surprised, thinking Kang is a bad person, but Kang responds that he has always saved people, including Miso, and now Chang too. Kang then tells him that he doesn't need to be so free with him because they're just not the same. Meanwhile, Young-jae is working the night shift, and Kang tells her that perhaps she forgot that Chang is also a patient, and that's why she's still here. He asks her to remove his IV so that he can go home, but Young-jae finds out that Chang has already left. Kang tells her that there are ghosts around at night, and it's better if she goes home with him. Young-jae is still upset with him and asks him again why he did what he did. Kang explains that his intentions were not wrong, only his method. Young-jae then tells him that partners should respect each other's thinking, which he didn't. She also mentions that he is so practical that she thinks he's never been in love. Kang responds that their relationship is not just about dating, but also about friendship and kindness, and that he could love her. Hearing this, Young-jae takes her stethoscope, checks his heartbeat, and says that she can tell he has never been in a real relationship, and that's what his heart is saying. After hearing this, Kang walks away but turns around and kisses her. He then places her hand on his chest so she can feel how fast his heart is beating. The drama ends with this romantic moment.